This is the Batflip podcast. Now here's your host, Damien, David, and Matt.
Hey everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Batflip podcast here on the Batflip Entertainment channel. My name is Matt. I'm here today with David. Damien is being lame today. He is not here, so it's just going to be the two of us. Got a big show today, talking a lot. We're down in the home stretch here, the regular season, talking some playoff races, a couple big series this week, a collapse that's going on, a crazy winning streak that's going on, a retirement, some IL injury news and notes, a couple of front office news and notes type things, and we'll go over our players of the day here at the end of the show today. From the past week. But first off, David, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing great, except for college football. That'd be the thing that's not going so great. Be sure to tune in on Thursday for our college football show run by Adam and Hank. They've been providing great content for us, and I'm sure they'll have lots to say about this last weekend's results, Clemson being a loser to Georgia Tech. I'm sure they'll have lovely criticisms of the team, many of which I'll have made myself as well, because it's been bad, at least from that front. Baseball front, my team's in the playoff race, looking to lock it up here maybe this week. They have the magic number to lock into the playoffs is 5 games for the Cubs. Feeling pretty good about that. I don't think they're going to go very far, but we'll see. You never know. You just have to make it into the tournament, so that'll be fun. But Matt, how you doing? I know the Braves are still disappointing you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be totally honest here on this show. I have not forced myself to watch an entire Braves game here in a couple of months. I keep up. I watch bits and pieces, but they're so hard to watch this year. They're running out lineups right now that have like 3 or 4 of their key core pieces in it. They're trying out some different guys. It's been fun to see Drake Baldwin have a big rookie year, although he struggled a little bit down the stretch. It's been some of these younger guys getting a chance. Hurston Waldrop had a bad start the other night, but it's been fun to see him kind of take a step forward this year. Maybe give us a look into what he could be in the future. Like there's been some things like that going on, but it's been tough for the Braves watching. Now I do want to point out that my college football team has not lost yet. This might be the last week I get to say that. They play Oklahoma this week, but my college football team is 3-0. That's why I've got my hat here today, War Eagle. But yeah, everything's been good here this week. It's like I say, we're getting to when your team is out of it, and David, you can relate to this over the last few years. There's not a lot of good. Well, the Cubs have been in the conversation still the last couple of years, but
which is
as a baseball fan, when your team is out of it, the mid-August to mid-September time is difficult for baseball. But then at the end of September, you start to pick up the really heat of the playoff races where every game has that intensity. Although every game right now matters too, and has mattered for the last month. We're going to be talking about that here in a minute. But the October baseball is coming, and October baseball is one of the most fun things there is in all of professional sports all over the world. So can't wait for that. But I guess we can start off by talking about who's going to be playing October baseball. A couple teams we'll talk about have already kind of locked in to being able to be in there. I don't think either one has clinched. The Phillies, I believe, did clinch the playoff berth. I don't think the Dodgers have clinched it yet, but I think they just got to get like one more game to clinch playoff berth.
Close.
Yeah, if they haven't already. Typically, I'll keep up with like who's clinched the wild card, who's clinched the divisions, whatever. But it looks like the Dodgers maybe have a magic number of 5.
They have a ways to go. But the Brewers have also clinched their playoff berth.
The Brewers clinched. The Phillies clinched.
Yeah, the Dodgers have a minute to go here.
Yeah, the Dodgers have 5 games is their magic numbers. Magic numbers we'll talk about tonight. That is the combination of your team's wins and the team behind you's losses in order to lock you in to the postseason. So the Dodgers' magic number is 5. That means the Dodgers have to win either 5 games, or the team behind them lose 5 games, or some combination therein. The Cubs' magic number is 4. That's how that works. But yeah, we can start off the 2 teams playing this week, the Dodgers and the Phillies. The biggest part of this is going to be the battle for that 3rd wild card spot. The 3rd seed, 2nd and 3rd seed. Both of these teams are likely to win divisions, although the Dodgers still do have only like a 2.5 game lead over the Padres. So theoretically, the Dodgers could lose the division, but the Dodgers and Phillies and Padres are kind of battling out for who gets to bye. So, David, what's your thoughts on that series this week? And what are we looking at here for the Phillies and Dodgers?
Well, I have major thoughts, and we'll also hit on an injury here.
Yes.
So the first report that I want to bring up is that the Dodgers are going to use an opener tonight to preserve Emmett Sheehan from having to face Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber in the first inning. And to that, I say that's cowards talk, and I am sick and tired of this opener crap. I think this is one of the things that it might be my most old head baseball opinion. And to be very clear, I think the Dodgers are absolutely making the correct call. I think it's absolutely the right call to do, right? Sheehan's a righty. You want to put in a lefty at the beginning of the game and, have that platoon advantage against two of the best hitters in our sport, and Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper. But I think that it should not be allowed in modern baseball. I think we need to reach back into the old timiness and get a little of that. The starter needs to be the one going deep into the game. It doesn't matter, what hand he is. He's got to be able to go out there and face these hitters and figure out a way to get them out. I do not like the opener strategy, and it's not just tonight, but because they're doing it tonight, I feel like it's time to have the emotional outburst a little bit, because I think it's crap. The Cubs have done it this year. I think it's dumb when they do it. I think it's dumb when anybody does it. The Brewers do it all the time, which is just another reason that it should be legislated out of the game, really. But this is where I liked the idea of tying the DH to the starting pitcher, where you have to have that guy throw a few innings in order to keep your DH. It's one of those things where, look, it's within the rules at this point, but this would go a long way to getting that kind of separation back between starting pitching and relief pitching. And I think that blending together over the last couple of seasons, it's not good for baseball. It's a lot harder to get star pitchers, and look at all the good that guys like Paul Skeens, Garrett Crochet are doing to the game right now. I mean, those guys are getting eyeballs for their teams, and you feel very comfortable with those teams going into the playoffs. But it's like, I guess not for Paul Skeens, right? But like, he's the kind of guy that needs to be in the playoffs at some point. You want to see that guy pitch, and I don't want to see some random lefty reliever pitch one inning against the best hitters on the other team. Like, I want to see the other team's best pitcher pitching against those players. So I think it's a bad thing for baseball. That this is a common occurrence.
I will say we have. And I guess this is kind of a tangent, not related to the series here, but we do have the minimum amount of batters a pitcher has to face out of the bullpen. Like, you have to face three batters when you come out of the bullpen. I guess one way they could also legislate it is you could have a maximum amount of, probably not maximum amount of hitters, but maybe a maximum amount of innings pitched for a reliever. Like, if you don't start the game, the max that you can pitch is 2 innings or something. Could be something that they could do. I'm not sure how it would work. That would just eliminate having bulk guys. You couldn't do this every game with an opener, because you would just be pitching all of your relievers 2 innings a day, and it just wouldn't work well. So
that's a harder one, because what if you've got a guy who can throw 3 or 4 innings out of the bullpen, and then you go into a game and you win. You're winning 10-0, and you go, let's go to our starter guy, let him finish the game. He throws 4 innings from the 5th on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, maybe there's a inning where that ends or something. I don't know. Just there's probably a way they could legislate out because I think that at the end of the day, the thing about the DH, I would be on board with your idea, but I think it's going to be hard to sell eliminating the DH playing the whole game, because fans want to go see Kyle Schwarber hit in Philly. Right. Like, fans want to see Yordan Alvarez hit in Houston.
My argument to them would be, learn how to play the field, fellas.
Well, hey, that's my thing.
Yeah,
I agree with you 100% on that. But just kind of having the pitcher as a spot in the order, and you basically have to pitch hit, but you don't lose your pitcher or something. I don't know, but there's something about the DH being tied to the batter that I don't think. I mean, obviously MLB would never go for it. Yeah, I mean, so
you also have injuries to consider. You also have, but my thing is that bringing in pinch hitters late in the game, I think is something the baseball fan likes. You like seeing the manager having some kind of impact where he goes, hey, I got my pitcher coming up. I need to make a pinch hit adjustment. We've kind of pulled that out of the managers. We really haven't seen that of late. So I like that. But I do want to take us back to this Dodgers Phillies series also because Will Smith has gone on the IL. He's been battling injury over the last couple of weeks, but one of the strongest hitters on this Dodgers lineup is down. Smith had been hitting. Oh boy, he isn't even qualified. So he's really been dealing with some injuries this season. But he had been hitting 296 with a 153 WRC plus. 17 home runs. He's got a 14% walk rate this season. He's just been excellent in the center of this Dodgers lineup. And it's a big loss, but it's also an opportunity for Dalton Rushing to probably start every day. For the Dodgers, I think that's kind of what they've been doing anyway. And Rushing is... I lost him on the list here. I think they've also been... I guess he's not doing so hot.
Yep.
Yeah, Dalton Rushing is got a 40% strikeout rate, so probably useful to get him some more plate appearances here against really good pitching and see if he can give you anything here in the playoffs.
Yeah, and just looking at the rest of the series, David mentioned the pitching matchup tonight is going to be the opener for the Dodgers, followed by Emmett Sheehan. Ranger Suarez is pitching for the Phillies tonight. Tomorrow night is Shohei Ohtani versus Christopher Sanchez.
Mm-hmm.
And then on, I guess it will be Wednesday night, is Blake Snell versus Jesus Luzardo. So good pitching matchups there. Shohei Ohtani, I believe, is he started pitching a little bit deeper into games. So I'm not sure what his last couple of starts have looked like, but obviously when he's pitching, he's excellent. He got a 2.17 FIP this year in his 36 innings. Lots of strikeouts, not a lot of walks. He seems to have picked right back up where he left off last time he was pitching back in 2023. But definitely some good pitching matchups there. Two really good teams. So the Dodgers have some ground to make up with the Phillies to get a chance at that last wild card spot. I mean that last bye spot, and I think that they really need to win at least two of these three to have a shot at that. So, and that's a big deal, not having to play that. I know the narrative over the last few years, not getting the bye, you stay fresh, but you also have to win a best 2 out of 3 series against a really good team, and whoever's that 3 seed is probably if the Dodgers are the 3 seed, they're probably either going to have to play the Mets, who beat them last year in the playoffs, or they beat last year in the playoffs. They gave them a tough series. The Mets won the wild card series last year. They beat the Phillies out last year. I mean, they've got talent, although it hasn't been great lately. We're about to talk about that, but and then the Giants, which would be just a crazy, a crazy series. And I'll tell you one team that is still not dead yet in the National League wild card is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They are like two and a half games back, I believe. So they are not dead yet.
They just don't have the pitching. You talked about those other teams. We'll transition into this because you're right. I think that that wild card series is just not a series you want to play. And if you can lock out of it, which the Phillies should be able to do, their 5 games up on the Dodgers. That's a tough.
It's a big
loss here.
But that's why the series is the sweep. If the Dodgers sweep the Phillies somehow, then that gets really interesting again.
Yep.
So
unlikely. The Phillies have a really good pitching coming this week. I like their.
The Phillies should win at least one of the 3.
Right. And hold that lead.
Yeah.
But so we transition over to the Mets. The Mets they have lost quite a bit of games. They I don't have the exact number in front of me. You got it?
They have lost 9 in a row, and then they won yesterday.
1-9 in their last 10 games. That's what I thought it was. I was just trying to verify. But it's funny is it hasn't been the hitting. Juan Soto is the first 30-30 player this season, which is not something I was expecting entering the year. He's been absolutely excellent. Francisco Lindor's got 5 WAR again because of course he does. Pete Alonso's been great this season. He's got like the 3rd most RBI on the in the league, but this is a tough spot because the Mets offense hasn't been the problem. It has been the pitching. And I think you and I both called this back when we did one of those kind of asking some questions episodes back in like June or July. We said, and is the Mets pitching really going to last? And we both said no. Damien kind of was adamant that it was yes. They just moved Sean Manaea, who was kind of Damien's one of the big guys that Damien was was pushing on as this is the way they will be able to hold on, so that Sean Manaea would come back. Well, Sean Manaea's been terrible, and he's got to get moved to the bullpen. And the Mets are relying on Jonah Tong and Nolan McLean and rookies. They sent Kodai Senga to AAA. Clay Holmes he's a reliever trying to pitch 180 innings. It's just tough. It's tough for a guy to do that and be effective. And then the bullpen acquisitions they've made have been terrible. Ryan Helsley has been atrocious in a Mets uniform. To the point where, he may not get a multi-year deal this offseason. He's probably pitched himself into a 1-year deal.
Yeah. The Mets. So there's a lot of different levels to this Mets collapse. And by the way, we're calling this a Mets collapse. The Mets still do have a 1.5 game lead in the wild card race for that last spot. They are still 80% likely to get into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. That number has plummeted from when they, I believe, had the best record in baseball at some point in early June. And they have it really has been a collapse. I think they've had I was trying to figure out what the stat was, but they had their best point in the season. They had a big lead in the NL East. I believe it was in early June. And since then, they've had the third or fourth worst record in baseball. Mm-hmm. So they've been behind teams like the Braves and the Marlins that are totally out of the picture right now. There's a few levels to this. Number one, the whole New York circus. Mm-hmm. I don't think we talk about that enough, how difficult that circus is. I mean, you've had Mets fans. Juan Soto has put up 40-30 season this year, and you have Mets fans talking about how horrible of a free agent pickup it is. And not just Mets fans, Mets columnists, Mets journalists, Mets beat writers talking about how Juan Soto's the problem with the team, even though he's put up a 40-30 season this year. That's kind of one of those things where New York media is brutal, and it's difficult to find a group of 26 players plus guys who have to come up during the season, go down, injuries and everything that can all handle that. Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is this Mets plan was always flawed from the start. We talked about this in the offseason. Mm-hmm. It was flawed from the start. The Mets had a plan with their pitching where they brought in guys who were relievers or were injury prone or were already injured, and they just decided they were going to take it and run with it. And they don't have a farm system because they never really did a rebuild. They didn't build up that depth in their system to be able to replace their expensive major leaguers when they get injured. They don't have anybody coming up to fill any shoes. And so what you've ended up happen is you've got a rotation that it's just not that good. And then your bullpen has been bad. You have one really good reliever in Edwin Diaz. Reed Garrett's been pretty good at times. I believe they have one other guy that I'm blanking on who it is.
Tyler Rogers.
Well, Tyler Rogers was the trade acquisition, and he's been good. But just AJ in general, for the season, AJ Minter was their offseason guy, who, by the way, the Braves didn't want to re-sign because he was injured. Yeah, and he got injured again. I mean, this plan for the Mets has not been great. Nolan McLean's been their best pitcher that they've had this year. Right. Him or David Peterson. Nolan McLean's only started 6 games, but he's been really solid as a guy who was a top prospect. But that's the type of guys you're going to have in order to sustain a playoff caliber team, a contender, mm-hmm. is guys like Nolan McLean, and they don't have enough of those guys. So definitely this is definitely a team that has a lot of. They've got a lot of issues, and then just kind of the mentality of this team doesn't seem to be there right now. I mean, if you look at their overall, their stats on the season, especially offensively, or at least from their position player core. I mean, they look like a team that should be really good, but just for whatever reason, it seems like they just don't pull out they don't pull out these games, and it's kind of one of those, oh crap, here we go again things with the Mets right now. And their next 3 games are with the Padres. That's not going to be easy. I believe that series starts tomorrow. They've got, I believe they've got they got the Nationals and Marlins as 2 of their series left, but they have 3 games in Chicago as well. So against the Cubs, not against the White Sox. Very important distinction there.
I mean, not really, but White Sox have been playing good baseball. The
White Sox have been playing a little bit better. The Cubs also could be locked into where they're going to be at that point. I would assume the Cubs are going to try to get that top wild card spot, or
Yes,
at
you host
least
the playoff game. Yeah.
so you host the series.
Mhm.
So I don't think they're going to be totally resting everybody. I don't know if they'll have that part of it clinched by then. I'm pretty sure they're not going to catch the
Yeah.
Brewers. The Brewers would have to lose like 10 games in a row or something.
I don't seem
With their,
likely.
yeah.
No
So
one's expecting that at this point.
yeah. So but yeah, I mean, this Mets collapse has been pretty crazy. And David, do you see any way that they pull out of this? And I mean, obviously, just
Well,
getting there and resetting for the postseason. But
the good news for the Mets is they've gone through the 1-9 stretch, right? They've ended the losses, streak, and gotten to a point where maybe things start to turn around. But I'm sitting here looking at Sean Manaea, like the stat wise, he's striking out the most hitters he's ever struck out. He's got the lowest left on base percent that he's ever had, and he's just giving up more home runs per fly ball. His xFIP is like 3.25.
yep.
I might have just left him in there. Yeah, I get it. He's given up too many home runs, period. He's given up too many home runs. That is a skill that the pitcher needs to not give up so many home runs. But some of those home runs have been multi-run home runs that could have been solo home runs. And this offense is good enough to get that run back. Like, I think maybe you stick with Sean Manaea. I think moving him to the bullpen might have been a knee-jerk reaction there.
Yes.
Is what I'm looking at right now. Yeah, he's got a 6 ERA, but he's got the numbers say it probably shouldn't be that bad.
Yeah, I agree with you, David. I think that's part of what I was kind of talking about at the beginning of our conversation with the kind of that pressure of New York.
Right.
I think the manager, he's an inexperienced manager, Carlos Mendoza, and I think that just he makes some knee-jerk reactions like that. I'm pretty sure this isn't the first time he's moved somebody to the bullpen when he probably shouldn't, or moved somebody out of the closer's role when he shouldn't, or whatever else he might have done. So, this is not something brand new for them, and I think that they probably need some. I'm not calling for them to replace Mendoza, but they probably need some more. Just they need somebody a little bit more confident and showing a little bit more confidence in his players than what Mendoza's showing right now. So
yeah, that's a little bit alarming because the numbers to me say Sean Manaea probably is a guy you could lean on in the playoffs. Yeah. Right. If he gives up 2 solo homers in the playoffs and is otherwise, 8 strikeouts in 5 innings or something like that.
Yeah.
You take that, I think, right?
Oh, yeah,
2 run runs, 5 innings in the playoffs. That feels like something he could easily pull out right now. But right now, what's happening is the other 2 guys he lets on base during the game are coming around on those home runs. And now it's a 4-run performance instead of a 2-run performance. And that's the difference, right?
Yep.
Too many home runs, right? Don't give up home runs as a general rule, but sometimes you give up the long ball. It just, if you can sequence it to where it doesn't happen in that fashion, right, where it's multiple runs, 3 runs, 4 grand slam type of moments, then generally the ERA will look better and it'll match the peripherals. That's just kind of how it works. So I think Damian gets all the credit, right, for calling Sean Manaea last year as being a guy that turned it around and made some adjustments and then went into the postseason and performed really well, earned himself a multi-year contract extension from the Mets in free agency. And you've given him out multiple years. You've trusted Sean Manaea that with $60 some odd million, like, you've got to stick with that guy. So him throwing him in the bullpen, I framed it initially as like, this is part of the problem. It is part of the problem, but I don't think it's just Sean Manaea problem. I think it's a managerial problem and a pitching development problem where why aren't we identifying that Sean Manaea's strikeout rate is up, right? Why aren't we identifying that his walk rate is down? That in theory, the home runs should subside as we approach playoff time, which is when you need him to be at his best.
Yeah, and I guess the last point on Manaea too is that his sample size has been lower this year because of the starting off injured. So, sometimes if maybe if he had the full sample size of having pitched 160, 170 innings to this point, and it's that way, maybe you look at it a little bit more, but he hasn't thrown that many innings. So I think it's just, some of it's just noise and bad luck so far. But I guess we've spent a lot of time talking about the Mets here. I guess we'll move on and talk about the other playoff races or including that one still, but maybe not talk as much about the Mets part of it. So just a really quick rundown. Right now, the AL East, the Blue Jays have a 4-game lead in the AL East. They're likely to win. The Yankees are really the only other team with a real shot at the division. The Red Sox aren't mathematically eliminated, but Blue Jays are in control there. The AL Central, the Tigers are in control. I do want to point out that Tarek Skubal had a little bit of a scare the other day. Got pulled from his start early, but he ended up being He ended up being okay. It sounds like they did imaging, and they said he's going to make his next start. So that's a good thing. But it may be something to watch out for a little bit. They've got a 6.5 game lead. They're going to win their division. The AL West, the Mariners and Astros and Rangers, just like 2 years ago, are right there together. And guess what? The Seattle Mariners now lead the American League West. They have a 1-game lead over the Astros, 3 games over the Rangers. So talking about the American League, David, AL West, are the Mariners going to pull this off? The Astros, I believe, have won the AL West every year except for 2020. Since
2023. Then, well, no, I guess maybe they did win in 2023. The Rangers,
I believe 2020.
The Rangers wild carded and got in. That's what happened.
I believe 2020, that the COVID shortened year, somebody else won the AL West.
Was it the A's?
The A's won the AL West.
I think it was the A's.
It was the A's. Then the Astros, and then the Angels almost made the playoffs that year. It was the shortened season. But the Astros have been in control of this division for a long time. Does that change this year? Is this the time?
I hope so. I'm my AL team right now is the Mariners, man. You got your AL MVP Cal Raleigh out there working hard. You got the starting rotation. We're on our player of the day votes all weekend for having multiple digit strikeout games. I think George Kirby and Brian Wu went 13 and 14 strikeouts against the Angels this week. And hey, shout out to my Angels fans. Yeah, they've been voting really well in our polls. But unfortunately, you guys got absolutely massacred by the red hot Seattle Mariners this weekend. Disappointing, of course, but the Angels, it's so tough right now for the poor Angels, right? You just got to kind of get up and go out and play again. And this is just a team that's kind of, if they're going to win, they're going to lose 90 games again. And where are they going to go? Right. But the Mariners got them at the right time and were able to capitalize. And now they have transferred all that momentum to lead in this division. We've talked at length about if the Mariners get into the playoffs, that might be collectively the pod's favorite team roster. When you get that into the playoffs, you've got the power side, you've got the star caliber players, you've got the pitching staff, and you've got the relievers. Like everything comes together so perfectly for the Mariners, and they're finally starting to win the games that we've kind of dictated that should be happening. Feels good to finally see it happening, but they're not out of it yet, and the Rangers are still in the conversation. And again, it's like I think the Mariners might be number 1, the Rangers might be number 2. If you can get Jacob deGrom motivated into the playoffs, I've said it before. Like I feel like that's going to be must-see TV. That's going to be so important for Major League Baseball. If you can get Jacob deGrom into some of these playoff games, it's just going to be electric to get him to maybe go up to 100% finally, because I think he's been at about 75 to 80% all year, trying to conserve his body, which is objectively the right call, but it's one of those where at the end of the season, it's finally time to go, and we'll get to see Jacob deGrom at 100%.
Yep, that is definitely true, and I believe the Astros and the Texas Rangers are playing a 3-game series right now. Starting today, the game just started. The Astros are up 2-0, and then their next 3 games after these 3 are against the Mariners. So big week in the AL West. Astros Rangers for 3, Astros Mariners for 3. All of those games are in Houston. So we're going to find out really soon who's going to win this AL West, and it's going to be a crazy finish to the season there. Looking at the wild card, which might be even wilder, no pun intended, than the AL West. We talked about the Rangers and Astros being in that wild card for that 3rd spot hunt right now. The Red Sox are only 1 game ahead of the Astros. They're the 2nd wild card. The Yankees are the 1st wild card, 2.5 up. They'd have to have a lot of teams past them. I think the Yankees are going to be okay unless they just lose a bunch of games in a row. And then we gotta mention it. The Cleveland Guardians, Cleveland Guardians, have won 9 of 10 games, and they are only 2 games back.
Oh man.
I believe the Guardians have a series against one of these other wild card contenders for the last 3 games of the year. They played Texas the last 3 games of the year.
That could be for a playoff spot.
It could be. I kind of expect Texas to still. I kind of expect it to be the Astros in that last wild card spot still. But looking at the odds, the Astros have a 72% chance to make the playoffs. The Rangers have a 30% chance to make the playoffs. The Guardians have an 11% chance to make the playoffs. Red Sox are at 90%. Everyone
Man.
else that's in it is really high. So, David, we've talked a little bit about the Astros, Rangers, all that going on. Do you see the Yankees, Red Sox dropping out, or are they locks? And do you see the Guardians factoring into this as well?
They're not locks. I'll tell you that. No, I think Fangraphs has some of that inherent like preseason bias still in there. I think the Mets are still above the Cubs. I think the Mets are still above the Cubs in World Series odds, but have like 60% less potential to make the playoffs right now. And it's like, well, hold on, how you have more of a chance to win the World Series? But I think some of that preseason bias is still baked in there a little bit, man. Give me Jose Ramirez in the playoffs again. That guy is again about to hit 30-30, right? And he's done that a number of times before. He's never gotten to 40-40. He's going to need to hit 12 home runs here in the next 2 weeks to get to 40-40. That's not going to happen, unfortunately, but it'll be the second consecutive year he hit 30-30, third year of his career. He's just ho-hum on another, top 10 MVP pace for this Cleveland Guardians team. They've taken the loss of Luis Ortiz and Emmanuel Clase in stride. Cade Smith stepped into closer's role. He's been excellent. He's the best pitcher by WAR, which reliever by WAR, and who cares, right? He's given up some more runs than Aroldis Chapman. So, I'll give you, he's been one of the best relievers in baseball since taking over that job for Emmanuel Clase. And then the starting rotation, Tanner Bybee threw a complete game shutout the other night. That does not happen these days. It kind of feels like a complete game shutout is almost what a no-hitter used to be for me, where it's like, that's a rare occurrence. That's something that's like exciting and should be commended. Tanner Bybee's starting to come into his own. I mean, I think this Cleveland team could be very dangerous. They could sneak into the postseason. They've gotten good starting pitching. We know that they're always going to have it. It's one of those things where, Shane Bieber's been pretty good for the Blue Jays. In fact, he's kind of been dominant. You wonder what would have happened if Cleveland had kind of believed in the team and held on to him.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. What would have happened if Cleveland had held Shane Bieber? Because they could, that might be 2 more wins for them now, in which case they'd be a half game back. So definitely big there. But I guess we can move on and look at the NL real quick. The divisions are pretty locked up in the NL, and at least in the East and Central. The Phillies have a 12-game lead in the East. They're fair. I guess they win it. Yeah, I don't know if they can.
I think that's actually how they clinched it. I thought that's how they clinched it.
They might have clinched through playoffs. I mean, through the East.
I think that's how they clinched it. I don't think they back at this point.
I think it might be I think if the Phillies went 0-12 and the Mets went 12-0, they would come. But yes, the Phillies are going to clinch. The Mets are in second there still. The Brewers are going to win the Central. They got a 5.5 game lead on the Cubs.
Yeah, I would take
the Brewers. The Brewers could fall apart, and the Cubs could just get really hot. It's not impossible, but it's unlikely.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, it's not likely at all.
It's not going to happen.
The Reds, they still have maybe just the touch of a chance, especially since it doesn't seem like anybody in the wild card hunt's really doing much to take over.
Yeah.
And then the National League West, still a race. Dodgers 2.5 games up on the Padres. The Padres do have a bit of a easier schedule remaining than the Dodgers. The Padres have games against the Mets for 3, and then they get the White Sox for 3. They get the Brewers, but the Brewers are probably going to be having a hangover lineup when they play. That will probably be after the clinching for the Brewers. And then the Arizona Diamondbacks for the last 3. That could be kind of interesting. Arizona's been playing good baseball lately, and they are only 2 games back in the wild card race as well right now. So, the Dodgers have kind of a similar schedule left. So it's going to be interesting there. Their schedule, the Dodgers' schedule is a little bit tougher than the Padres. And actually, they've got a pretty high winning percentage left to play. Yeah. But David, do you think, before we talk about the wild card, do you think the Padres have a chance still to catch the Dodgers? I believe the Dodgers have the tiebreaker in that series.
They do, but I mean, we haven't bet against the Dodgers all year. By the way, Damian did update us that Dalton Rushing has been on the IL. We had talked about him earlier, but he will be back tomorrow. So there you go.
Thanks, Damian.
So thanks, Damian, for the update. But yeah, I mean, the Dodgers they've been the premier team. They've kind of been playing down to the competition a little bit over the season so far. I think when all is said and done here in September, they're going to, find their way into the postseason as the National League West champs. At this point, right? We talked about this series against the Phillies. If they don't sweep the Phillies, it feels like the Phillies will have that home field, that bye, and it'll put the Dodgers into the wild card round, and that's just dangerous, right? That's what kind of having that, we'll call it a World Series hangover, effectively is going to get you. They're going to be at risk. It might be against the Mets, whom we've talked about pretty extensively, but the Dodgers feel like they're going to be at risk in this wild card series, and all it takes is 2 games. Two bad games, and you're out. So that's a tough ask. It's a tough ask for even a team as good as the Dodgers. You don't want to go to that wild card series. That's why you said what you did earlier, and I think they're it's regardless of whether they win the division, they're going to be in the wild card series. So it kind of doesn't matter at this point. Even if they do lose out and lose that momentum to the Padres, if you can reset and get into the playoffs and get hot, who cares, right? So, it almost doesn't matter at this point. They effectively just need to sweep the Phillies this week in order for it to matter.
Yep, I agree with you. Looking at the rest of the wild card, we talked a ton about the Mets. We don't really talk about them that much. The second place team in the National League West, whether it's the Dodgers or Padres, is going to be in. The Padres have a 5-game lead over the last wild card, which is the Mets. They're basically 6.5 in control of being in the playoffs. The Cubs, huge lead in the wild card. They're going to clinch soon. The Cubs will be in. The teams that are still alive here, that the Mets obviously have the last wild card right now. The Giants are 1.5 games back. The Diamondbacks are only 2 games back at 500. Which, by the way, the Diamondbacks sold at the deadline.
Yeah,
they could have kept Eugenio Suarez. They believe they sold a couple relievers as well. Shelby Miller might have been one of those. So that was
Merrill Kelly.
Merrill Kelly. They traded
Rangers.
Merrill Kelly. Yep. So keeping Merrill Kelly might have helped them here. But the Diamondbacks have had a great offense all year. So they did just lose Lourdes Gurriel, as we talked about a little bit last week. But they're alive here. And then the Cincinnati Reds are still alive. They're 74-75. They're 2.5 games back from the Mets. But it feels like being that last team there, that just a lot of teams to pass.
Yeah.
So the Reds are probably on the outside looking in. But David, do you think the Mets are going to hold on here? And which team, if they don't, do you think is going to be the one that could knock them off here?
My theories going into a playoff push like this is almost always going to be who's got the pitching. The Mets don't have it right now. They are faltering in the pitching. They've got the offense to do it. So do the Diamondbacks. The team that has the pitching is the San Francisco Giants. They've got Logan Webb, who is one of the best starters in baseball. They've got a number of additional good pitchers on that roster. They sold at the deadline. They did the same as some of these other teams, and it's one of those where it just doesn't matter if you sell at the deadline these days. Yeah. There's so many spots open. All it takes is you getting hot in August and September, and you go on and make it happen, right? Somebody, the young guys you pull up might help you out, and this will transition perfectly into our next point of talking about young guys, because I think the Giants can do it, and the Giants think they can do it because they're calling up Bryce Eldridge, who's their top prospect, this week to come in here and try and help that offense out and provide some stability for that pitching staff to go ahead and get in. But I mean, they've been hot. Rafael Devers has been great. Matt Chapman is amazing. I mean, just one of the best third basemen in baseball. This team is poised to make a really good run. It's almost surprising that they're so far out to begin with here.
Yeah, definitely. I want to point out one other guy for the Giants here. I do want to point out Justin Verlander.
Yeah.
There is not a single person in the baseball world in June and July that did not think he was cooked and just done. He had a 4.70 ERA. His peripherals were worse than that. Ever since the break in the second half of the season, he has a 2.95 ERA and a FIP that doesn't entirely back that up, but I believe his FIP's in the sub. It's around 3. It's a little over 3. Yeah. I mean, he's bringing it. He's been really. It's actually his FIP's at a 3.09, so his FIP's been excellent. He's not giving up home runs right now. The strikeouts are up. Still not an elite strikeout rate, but they're better than they were early in the season. I'm
I
telling
saw
you,
him.
yep, you did, and
He was throwing 98.
yep, it's really been really fun to see Justin Verlander have
Yeah.
a big second half, and I think we would all like to see Justin Verlander pitch in the playoffs. Sorry, Damian, I know you don't want the Giants to make it because you don't like them, but Justin Verlander dealing in Game 3 against the Dodgers will be something to behold. So,
You've also got Robbie Ray in there too. He's been
Robbie
pretty
Ray,
solid. He was an all-star.
I mean, if you can get that Justin Verlander we've seen over the second half, add in Robbie Ray and Logan Webb, who is maybe
I'll take them in a wild card series against the Dodgers.
I think they'd have a chance. I don't know if I'd
They'd have a
take
chance.
that over Yamamoto, Snell, Otani. I mean, the Dodgers offense, as maybe banged up as it's been in recent days, I'm definitely on board with that being a real series though, with that pitching that the Giants can run out there. So, and in that rivalry, anything can happen. But yeah, the Giants definitely have a chance here. We'll see if the Mets are able to turn it around. The Mets do have an easier schedule remaining than the other teams involved there, but I guess we can move on. David, I'll let you have your spiel here. There's a lot of Cubs updates this week. We can start off with some. We'll start off with some bad news, then we'll go to some good news, and then we'll go to some cool news. Bad news, which I think, based off of David's comments last week, might actually be good news.
It's good news. It's very good news.
But the fact of the matter is, Kyle Tucker being on the IL, regardless of whether it was a good move to finally do it, that's bad news that Kyle Tucker's on the IL. So, David, any thoughts on Kyle Tucker to the IL? Obviously, he wasn't playing. He hadn't been playing for a while last week when he was put on the IL, but
they're doing it again with Seiya Suzuki is the issue. Seiya's I think he's been sick. It has been his issue, but just leave him on the bench, and it's that's so unhelpful. You're just playing a man down again. Very annoying. Their injury, their work around the injuries has just been atrocious this year. I'm glad Kyle Tucker's finally on the IL. He's healing. He should be back for the postseason. That's what's important. But oh my goodness, the fact that it was like a week before they even put him on the IL is just ridiculous.
Absolutely. The next piece of Cubs news. This is good news. Mike Soroka, their premier trade deadline acquisition, is back from the IL. He should be pitching. Is he starting or relieving? I haven't heard.
He is relieving. He's going to be like a bulk reliever.
He has been, over the past couple of years, a lot better as a reliever.
Right.
So
yeah, that might be the best thing for him. Having this kind of this weapon out of the bullpen that go multiple innings in the postseason, that might actually be useful. But it's still one of those things where you mentioned it weirdly, Andrew Kittredge's just been better than most relievers that got traded at the deadline. As I said on deadline day, I was like, Andrew Kittredge is going to be really good. He has been really good, and the Cubs still had a bad deadline. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
Hopefully Soroka pitches more than 2 innings this time. That's all I can ask for.
Yeah. We are big Mike Soroka fans here, though. After all the stuff he's dealt with, it would be very cool to see him deal in the postseason.
I think he might. So he's
got a shot.
Got good stuff, right? I haven't seen.
He pitched when he was with the Braves. He pitched in that one postseason when he was healthy, and he absolutely diced up the St. Louis Cardinals in a game.
He's already
pitched like 8 innings. He was incredible.
That's all you had to say originally.
So, yeah.
Back when I was complaining about him, you should have just said he diced up the Cardinals in the postseason.
Yeah.
He
dueled Adam Wainwright.
My hero.
Won. Yep. So, but yeah, and then I guess one last piece. This is probably this isn't huge news when it comes to this year, but just a cool thing. Anthony Rizzo signed a 1-day thing with the Cubs. He's retiring as a Cub.
Yep.
Obviously, he's a Cubs hero. So, David, if you want to have any thoughts on that, go ahead.
I get my 2 minutes of fame with Anthony Rizzo here, but I was 100% sure when he caught that ball to win the World Series that he was going to kind of find a Hall of Fame career. That hasn't worked out, right? The concussions, the trade from Chicago, the performance kind of fell off a little bit. The injuries really took him out.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years in New York, and that's been disappointing. I really felt like Rizzo probably could have competed this year on a team, but he obviously didn't feel that was in the cards for him, and he's kind of been able to make that decision to retire. And in so doing, I mean, being able to come back to the Cubs is just that's really special. It's special to You watch him in the stands, and the best part about that whole thing, right? He came into the stands. He's going to be hired as a Cubs ambassador to, he'll be to players, he'll be to the families. He's going to, the fans. He's going to get to come do broadcasts and stuff. Like this is a really great moment for Cubs fans because that's the guy who caught the World Series winning ball. But Moises Ballesteros hit his first major league home run straight to Anthony Rizzo. It hit him in the hand.
That's hilarious.
And that is the most, like, that is just a picture perfect baseball thing, because Rizzo's defining moment as a Cub is catching the ball to win the World Series, and to have him kind of end and conclude his time with the Cubs, dropping the first home run of what could potentially be another, first base type player that could, anchor the Cubs lineup for years to come in Moises Ballesteros. He's got a lot of Anthony Rizzo kind of qualities to him as a hitter. It's just, that's just hilarious. It's so beautiful. And that's the kind of story you only get in baseball, right? Like the fact that Ballesteros could have hit it to any one of 40,000 people, and he hit it to the guy who's getting honored as a retiring player. It's just fantastic, man. It's great work. And we'll finish on a lighter note because it also is Adam's cat retiring, named Rizzo. So we'll finish with that. But yeah, I'm excited for Anthony Rizzo. We talk about the Hall of Fame all the time. He will not be making the Hall of Fame, unfortunately. But the Hall of Pretty Good Twitter account is a thing, and I think Rizzo's going to be a premier member of the Hall of Pretty Good.
Rizzo is one of those guys who's going to be a Cubs legend forever. But obviously his career didn't quite hit Hall of Fame worthy, but he was an excellent player, played a really good career, made a lot of money, a postseason hero for the Cubs. He'll be remembered in baseball circles forever. So great career. Congrats to him. Hopefully he might have a career in baseball after retirement too. I think like the type of guy that would, if he wants to, he seems like the type of guy who would be really good at that. So
I think he's going to go into the broadcast booth. I think that's
he very well might.
I think he's going to excel.
Very well might.
I also want to shout that he's a cancer survivor, and pretty much all of the work he does is, for kids with cancer. He wore a jersey with his jersey, and he had all the kids that he visited in the Chicago hospital sign. It might have been a Florida hospital, but he had all the kids sign his jersey, and then he wore the jersey to retire. So that guy, that's just a special guy. And it's awesome that he's, going to be a Cub for life effectively after getting to sign this and, sign this 1-day deal, retire. And, we'll go out with him as a Cub, which is awesome.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I guess we can move on and talk about just a couple more things around baseball that happened this week. Under the radar in the offseason, apparently the report came out that the Baltimore Orioles promoted Mike Elias to like a president of baseball operations type role where he had been the GM. I think before this season, that would probably have been a little bit more celebrated if they had announced this past offseason.
I don't even think it would have been.
Maybe not. Maybe if it happened at the beginning of last offseason, coming off a playoff appearance for the second year in a row, maybe. But this year has not been a good year for Mike Elias, so I bet he's very glad he got that promotion when he did. A lot of his moves this offseason did not work. The Orioles had a lot of early season issues. They did right the ship. They have been much better after being the worst team in baseball in the first month. I think they played over 500 balls since the first month. But obviously, I believe they're
14 under.
They were like 14. They were like
11 under.
I was going to say at some point they were like 15, 16 under, like in the first month. They were, yeah. But either way, the pitching plan was bad. It did not work. It was a tough. It's been a tough season for them. They do still have a really good position player core of young guys. They have a lot of decisions to make this offseason. I guess in ways that are, the Mike Elias the continuity could help with some of these moves. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, after his promotion, they are hiring now the GM position, which will be like the second in command to Mike Elias. They've asked the Cubs about their scouting director. They've asked the White Sox about their assistant GM, and it sounds like
both of them turned it down.
Happen. Yeah. So
both of them. Thank God Dan Kantrovitz turned it down. He has been excellent as a scouting director. He has pulled value out of every spot in the draft.
And I will say, these guys might be turning it down because they're expecting to get actual GM jobs with their decision making too.
Yeah.
But
I think the White Sox guy also. I think I saw White Sox
yeah,
fans praising that he wasn't taking that job. They were like, "Thank God he's back." Like I think
yeah,
there's a sigh of relief going across
yeah.
Chicago because of those guys. Dan Cantrovis has been excellent
Mhm.
in scouting, and of course, we'll talk about him again. But I think the Cubs GM job might open up this year, and I think there's a non-zero chance the Cubs have kind of slid it Dan Cantrovitz's way potentially.
Yep. That would be definitely be something something a little
So
something that would be a little bit surprising if the Cubs opened up, but
I don't think so.
so yeah,
Not
um,
GM. Player baseball operations would be, but not GM.
right, yeah, I gotcha. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who the Orioles hire. That's not going to be a major decision making role.
Right.
Mike Elias will have the final say, so it's probably not the biggest deal.
Right.
But there is one already major decision making role
Mhm.
that is open, and that is the Nationals. We've talked about them back right before the draft when they fired their president of baseball operations. I don't remember if he had that title or if
I think
he had GM
it's Mike
title.
Rizzo, but I think it was
Yes.
GM. I think he was
Yeah.
technically GM.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they are currently looking at the Carter Hawkins Cubs
Yep.
GM. And of course this would be another GM job, but he would be the decision
He would be
maker
the
here.
decision maker.
At Emil Saladay, who is the Diamondbacks executive. I don't know how to say his name. Josh Burns, who is the Dodgers senior vice president. Paul Taboni, who is the Red Sox assistant GM. So some interesting candidates there. I think one thing to kind of look at with the Nationals search here is all of these GMs are coming out of successful franchises. Obviously, the Diamondbacks won the World Series year before last. They built up a great core. The Cubs are having a good year this year. They're right there in the chance to be in the playoffs, or that they will be in the playoffs. Got a good team. The Dodgers, the Red Sox have really right the ship in the last couple of years. So, I think it's kind of important to look at just the organizations these guys come from, with it being, these guys haven't made decisions. We don't know exactly what roles they've had. So
Right.
it's kind of just coming from good organizations under good GMs is a big deal.
The lucky part is we do know one guy. I know Carter Hawkins' role, and he has been I didn't mean to put that on, but that's hilarious. Carter Hawkins' role has been effectively, like you said, kind of second in command to Jed Hoyer. But I think a lot of the Cubs' timidness has come out of Carter Hawkins. I think that's a big part of why they haven't been quite so aggressive. Carter Hawkins came from the Guardians, where he found a lot of guys on the margins, right? They, got the most out of what they had. That was always his philosophy, and he moved over from there. And, the Cubs have kind of done that quite a bit, where they've kind of gone, well, we'll just get the most out of what we have. And so I think that's kind of what Carter Hawkins can be as a GM. I think you'll see a lot of Cubs fans will not be upset to see him moving on. I think I think the Cubs want a little more AJ Preller in their life rather than the Guardians GM, basically. So, I think the other guys are equally interesting, right? I think the Josh Burns guy might be the high upside play, but the kind of unknown play. But I would expect it's between Hawkins and Tobani would be kind of my guess at this point, and then we'll see what the Nats want to do. I think that's an organization that really needs some new direction, and all these names could probably work out for them. But that kind of starts with, hey, who do you trade, right? You just had the interim group sign Eli Willits first overall. Do you believe in Eli Willits? How do you value him versus, your previous regime, right? Should you trade him? Who knows? Also, Damien tossing in a little info on Josh Burns, former San Diego GM.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm glad he's been with the Dodgers and not he's gotten the AJ Preller out of him a little bit.
And so everybody needs a little AJ Preller. I think maybe AJ Preller goes he's 100% AJ Preller. I think that's too much AJ Preller. I want 50% AJ Preller. I think there's an amount that's better than what it has been. I think that's a pretty reasonable work. And hey, Damien Tossin and Braves as well. So there you go. Hey, Josh Burns is if Josh Burns has toured around so many teams, it feels like he's a very successful type of executive and should have plenty of opportunity to get one of these GM jobs at some point.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Well, I guess we'll close out the show here with the player of the day polls from this past week. So, David, take it away.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to see if anybody tie break. We did get votes, and they didn't tie break our vote for Saturday. Matt, you voted Troy Johnson. I have to rescind your vote and ask that you give me one of Salvador Perez or Brian Wu. Salvi had 2 home runs. Brian Wu had 13 strikeouts.
Brian Wu's team
Okay.
won. So
there we go. That'll work. Brian Wu, player of the day for Saturday, September 13th. I don't know. I think that was not his first. But I'll figure that out later because I have to roll through our names. Tyler Glasnow won player of the day for September 8th. Kyle Hendricks, the professor, picked up player of the day on September 9th. Had a wonderful start for the Angels. September 10th was Blake Snell in a 4 out of 5 in a row for the Dodgers. On September 10th, Kevin Gausman picked up September 11th. Tanner Bybee had that complete game shutout I mentioned. He was September 12th. Brian Wu, as we just discussed, September 13th, and then Mickey Moniak grabbed September 14th with a 2 home run performance. And Matt, I'm gonna go ahead and surmise my two nominations here are going to be Mickey Moniak and Kyle Hendricks. Of these two, I think honoring one of them with player of the week is the least we can do for a pair of really good stories this season. Kyle Hendricks has been a legend for a long time. One of my favorite players of all time. Still doing it, throwing 87 and picking up outs. But Mickey Moniak is a comeback story with the Rockies. He's at, I think, 22 home runs. He might even be more than that right now. He is. Let me give you Mickey Moniak's season stats real quick because I think it could impact your decision. He has been excellent for the Rockies this season. Batting 268, 306, 509 slug, a 107 WRC plus. That's because he's playing in Coors. He's got a 344 WOBA with a 341 X WOBA and 21 home runs, 62 RBIs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't even realize that. So Mickey Moniak, I guess I'll be on board with that too.
Awesome.
He has been very good this year. Obviously
it's not fielding well, but it's
has he been? Yeah, I don't know what they've been running him out there defensively
center field.
Yeah, I'd say he probably should be playing a corner or something. It looks like they're running him out there right field, 66 games.
Yeah, they're kind of
36 games in center, 14 in left. So, maybe he should be playing left field or something. And I don't think that's of course it's a difficult place to play the outfield at too. It's so big. So a little surprising. Moniak was thought of as a pretty good defensive prospect, I believe, back when he was coming up with the Phillies. But yeah, good for him. He's only 27 years old, former number 1 overall pick. It's not like he's some 35-year-old who's just having one, storybook season. He's still got some youth to him if he can continue to put it together like he has so far this year. So looks like we lost David. So I guess I'll close us off here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been a good episode. We will be back Thursday with I believe Thursday, Adam, and there's David. He's back now. I was just about to close us out, David. Do you have any final thoughts today?
I do. Jordan Alvarez just left the game.
Oh, that's not good.
Nothing for Houston. But yeah, hopefully that doesn't mess up our recording stuff. Chrome crashed on me. Almost made it the end of the show, but happy for Mickey Moniak picking up player of the week. And we'll see you guys next week. And tune in on Saturday or on Thursday rather for our show for college football.
Yep, that's what I was saying. I believe Hank and Adam will be back on Thursday with college football. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. We'll please like, comment, subscribe, follow us on all of our socials, and we will catch y'all next week with another episode.